The one I really want to deal with first is Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers, great quarterback, probably a Hall of Fame quarterback despite his lack of Super Bowls. And maybe that lends to why he made this comment. But basically, he said in a recent interview with Dan Patrick that Tom Brady should not be considered the GOAT just because he has 6 Super Bowl rings. And here it is right here.
I remember thinking when the Patriots beat the Seahawks, when they had the interception against the Seahawks down there on 4th and 1, and that gave them, their 5th championship, right? Brady's 5th, I think. Everybody said, well, he's now the greatest of all time. I always thought he was already one of the greatest of all time, but because they intercepted the pass, he's now the greatest of all time. What if the Seahawks would have ran it in, and the Seahawks would have won? Brady just played the exact same game. He didn't do anything different, but it is funny how that works. So I don't look at that. That's why I always think Marino's right there in the mix too.
Now, as I said, I'm just going to keep it 100. In fact, I'm going to keep it 150. If I were a great quarterback like Phillip Rivers, but hadn't won any Super Bowls, I would take that approach as well. I would be like, this is a team sport. In fact, it's the ultimate team sport. You can't judge these guys on Super Bowls. Dan Marino's the greatest we've ever seen fling it. And he didn't win a Super Bowl, but I still think he's the GOAT. That elevates my position. Just like if I'm LeBron James, I'm going to downplay the number of finals losses. How that Jerry West, he's Mr. Clutch. He's the logo. He lost his first 7 trips to the finals. It elevates my position and decreases the criticism I might receive for losing 5 finals, or in Phillip Rivers' case, for never reaching the Super Bowl. All right, so I get where he's coming from, and obviously there is some legitimacy to what he's saying. Dan Marino was one of the greatest of all time. Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest of all time with just 1 Super Bowl. Phillip Rivers is probably a Hall of Famer. Phillip Rivers is better than Eli Manning. And Manning has 2 Super Bowl championships. But here's the thing when you start talking about Tom Brady and whether or not he's the GOAT. And my contention is that he is indeed the GOAT. He is the greatest quarterback of all time. Now, don't give me the greatest football player of all time because he's not the greatest football player of all time. But he is the greatest quarterback, period. He's got the championships and he's got the individual accolades. And here's when I began thinking that Brady might be the GOAT. Because early in his career, even though he had won Super Bowls, 2001, 2003, 2004, that's 3 Super Bowls in his first 4 years as a starter. Okay, so that was great. But at that point, I never considered him in the GOAT conversation. I didn't look at him as a guy that in the future might be in the GOAT conversation. But when 2007 rolled along and he finally got a top flight receiver named Randy Moss, and then he obliterated the record books. He led the NFL in completion percentage, 69%. In yardage, 4,806 yards. In touchdowns, 50. In yards per game, 300. In passer rating, 117. And of course, they went 16-0 during the regular season. Now, they didn't cap it off by winning the Super Bowl. They lost to the Giants and Eli Manning. But when I saw Brady with a real legitimate receiver, when I saw him get a Jerry Rice like Joe Montana had, and he just tore it up, that's when I said, this dude is one of the greatest ever and may end up being the GOAT. And then he follows up the Moss era, if you will, with 3 other Super Bowls. Now he's got 6. He's the GOAT. And here's the thing, folks. I would say it to Phillip Rivers and Rob Parker and any of the other naysayers out there. Tom Brady, here are his leading receivers throughout his career without Randy Moss. Troy Brown, Deion Branch, David Givens, David Patton, Rashay Caldwell. Those guys have one Pro Bowl appearance between them or among them. He's won 3 Super Bowls with that cast. I mean, come on. Then you throw in Wes Welker. Then you throw in Julian Edelman, who was a quarterback at Kent State in college. And then, of course, he got Gronk, but they won a Super Bowl without Gronk. So this is why Brady's the GOAT. Of course, the winning and the intangibles that have led to the winning. The 6 Super Bowls, the 9 Super Bowl appearances. But the fact that he has done it with such a pedestrian, at best, receiving core. And then when he did finally get a blue chip talent on the outside, he went ballistic statistically. That is why he is the GOAT. That's why it's not just the 6 Super Bowl rings. It's the same thing with Michael Jordan. When you say Michael Jordan's better than LeBron James, the millennials want to say, oh, it's just the rings. No, it's not just the rings. That's a part of it. But Jordan dominated individually in a way LeBron didn't. Jordan does many things better than LeBron did. Free throw shooting, post-up game. I think he's a better finisher. I think he fits in a team system better than LeBron, which makes it easier for his teammates to play around him. He didn't dominate the ball like LeBron. There's more to it. But the championships is a part of it. So Phillip Rivers, I get where you're coming from. I understand it. If I were in your shoes, I'd say the same thing. But the fact of the matter is, Tom Brady is the GOAT. The 6 rings are a part of the deal, but not the only part of the deal. I know you got some haters out there. I know Rob with the technical difficulties, is texting all his friends in Detroit and whatnot, saying, call in. I need representation. Chris is way off base. You gotta hate. You gotta represent the hip boat.
I need a cold shower.
And then I know some of you got my back because I'm coming with facts, not fiction. I'm coming with logic, not lies. Is Tom Brady the GOAT, or does Phillip Rivers make a great, undisputable point? Help us out with these calls.
That's right, Chris. Let's get it started with Jabril in Atlanta. Jabril, what do you got to say today?
Yeah, Phillip Rivers was right. Tom Brady not the GOAT. Every time he won a championship, he had a top 7 or better defense. And he got the best defensive coach in NFL history.
That's
and
it.
All of the
what
plays
about
that they designed.
I get you. You're right. He's got a great defense. And Terry Bradshaw had the steel curtain when he won his Super Bowls. I mean, you need a great defense, no question. But what about the role players around him on the offensive end at the skill positions?
He a role player at the skill position.
Oh, stop it. What role player is thrown for 50 touchdowns or the equivalent in any league?
Okay, but
what role player in the NBA has averaged 30 points a game? That's the equivalent.
You're right. He put up a lot of touchdowns, but the play design that they give him are designed for short, quick, guaranteed plays. You mean
like Drew Brees? Or like most of these quarterbacks today?
No, because Drew Brees will take you down now. He'll take you downfield.
Yeah, but he does dink a lot, too. And maybe Brady does that because he doesn't really have a deep threat. Ever thought about that? When he had a deep threat, he went deep with Randy Moss. Who's the GOAT in your opinion? If it's not Brady, who is it? Dan Marino?
Yep.
He was great. He's great. But you got to factor in winning.
I like Big Ben a little better than Brady, too.
Big Ben?
Yeah.
Big Ben? Next caller. Go ahead, Rob G.
I think we got Chris a little agitated. Let's go
Big
with
Ben?
Let's go with Mike in New York. Mike.
What's up, Chris? How you doing, brother?
What's happening, man? How are you?
Been missing you, man. Yesterday was terrible.
Yo,
But
it's great to be back, man, and I'm glad you called us.
Appreciate it. But I think the whole Phillip Rivers thing is a classic case of perfect message, wrong messenger. Now, hear me out, Chris. And I heard you say I heard the message, and you're leaving a lot of Pro Bowl players out, even a Hall of Fame running back who we played with in Corey Dillon, which we seem to forget, and those great defenses. But he also played with Brandon Cooks, who had 4 straight 1,000-yard receiving years before he played with him, Brandon Lloyd, Aaron Hernandez. How many weapons do the guy need? I'm just saying, it's hard to put him as the GOAT with Joe Montana being undefeated.
Did you hear those names I rattled off? David Givens. Have you ever even heard of David Givens?
Yes.
Rashay Caldwell, who's known for the few drop passes he's had in the playoffs.
But, Chris, what about Corey Dillon? What about Aaron Hernandez? What about the greatest
When
tight
did
end of
Corey
all
Dillon
time?
get in the Hall of Fame?
The man is
You talking about the
top
University
5.
of Washington Hall of Fame?
No, the guy is top 10 all-time of rushing yards all time. That shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, Chris. Top 10?
Is he in the Hall of Fame?
No,
he's
but
not.
Chris, what
And
about
he played
Aaron
3
Hernandez?
seasons.
What about
He played 3 seasons in his 30s with the
And he
Patriots.
went for
Now I give
1,600
you,
yards.
he was great. He was great in 04. 1,600 yards. He was great. I give you that.
Yes.
And that's not going to make me take it away from Brady because Joe Montana had Roger Craig. Terry Bradshaw had Franco Harris. John Elway had Terrell Davis. Like, he's not the first one to have a great running back. But it's not like he had Dillon his entire career. Dillon had one of his 7 or 8 1,000-yard seasons with the Patriots. So I'm 2-0. I see y'all coming at me. You better text Rob back and say Broussard's taking us down. Who's next, Rob?
All right, we got Max in Georgia ready to jump in with Chris Broussard. Max.
Chris, man, long time. I got to step in for Rob not being there. I just want to rattle off some things and hear what you got to say. Being in the AFC least, that's like 6 guaranteed wins a year. I know it doesn't always happen, but it's pretty much guaranteed. The other thing, I struggle with putting the label GOAT on anybody, whether it was Tom Brady or anybody, with scandals, whether they be accurate or not, with Deflategate, Spygate, the Tuck rule, not to mention the fact that a lot of those Super Bowls were won by a 3-point field goal margin. They had arguably the best field goal kicker of all time, certainly maybe the best coach of all time, Spygate and stuff like that aside. I struggle with giving him all the credit. I feel like Tom Brady these days is sort of like the LeBron James in some ways, that if it goes great, it's all for Tom. If it doesn't, it was Bill Belichick, or they had a poor defense, or they don't have receivers. I just struggle with giving him that title. Is he a great quarterback? Without a doubt. Is he one of the greats? Sure, certainly he could be. But I just struggle with giving him the GOAT title, man. I really do. Not to mention, Matt Castle, Jimmy Garoppolo, like other guys have stepped in and gotten 10-plus wins a year. So help me out, Chris.
Matt Castle. Not Jimmy Garoppolo. And we see Jimmy G is going to be interesting to watch this year. But I'll give you Matt Castle, but that was one season. Belichick, I do think he's the greatest coach in NFL history. But Rob G, correct me if I'm wrong. In his 7 years of coaching without Brady, two playoff appearances. Check that. Correct me if I'm wrong. But 7 years without Brady, 2 playoff appearances. Obviously with Brady, 9 Super Bowl appearances, 6 championships. I think the best argument you made is the scandal. I'll give you that. That's a hard one to answer. And I look, Deflategate, do I think it's the worst thing in the world? No. I mean, and they proved it obviously since then, especially right after the whole situation. They weren't playing with deflated balls and he still went on and wrecked shop. So I don't think it was a huge deal, but it is a scandal. And I do think, having played football, that a softened ball, a little less deflated inflated ball, it will help you as a running back hold on to the ball easier, not fumble as much. catch the ball easier. So that is a tough one to get over. I watched the Super Bowl with my wife last year, just her and I chilling, watching the game, and she couldn't believe I was pulling for Tom Brady because she said he's a cheater. So that's the best argument. I still think he can override it, but that is a tough one. Any more, Rob G?
Yeah, we got time for one more, Chris. Let's get to Manny in Texas.
Manny, what's happening?
Hey, Chris, first-time caller. I'm about to be a long-time listener now.
My man.
I've always hated Tom Brady, man. You always see the Patriots in the freaking Super Bowl, and I'm just like, this guy, how does he do it? And then you mentioned the receivers that he played with, and I was like, damn, I mean, I don't know any of those dudes. Like maybe Deion Branch, but...
And you know him because he was in the Super Bowl, but he never made a Pro Bowl,
Yeah, so you just blew my mind. I'm like, Tom, he has to be. He is one of the greatest of all time. He's done it.
Go ahead and say it. The greatest. You want to? You know you do. I can tell. You're dying to say it. What's holding you back?
He's the greatest of all time.
Say it.
Right?
Repeat after me.
He's
Tom
the greatest.
Brady. Go ahead.
Tom Brady is the greatest of all time.
My man.
He's done it. I mean, maybe the last Gronk maybe like helped them out a little bit.
Yeah, Gronk is great, but they won it without Gronk. Don't forget that.
Yeah, exactly. And also, somebody said something about their offense, how they run it, like a short gain and stuff like that. So it should be short gain, and the defense should be stopping these like short little passes. Like these guys shouldn't be going off for. They dump it off for 3-5 yards, and then they go off for like 85 yards for a touchdown. It's like, come on.
I'm with you, Manny. Great call.
But,
and look, I'm a lot like Manny. I'm not some super Tom Brady fan. I mean, trust me. I'm not a New England Patriots fan. I do like seeing history. So I am at the point now where I like seeing Tom Brady win it because, 6 Super Bowls. What if he gets 7? I like seeing history. But now I'm also looking at Pat Mahomes and saying, oh, this boy can make some history too. So I'm not this super Brady fan, but like I said, back in 2007, when I saw what he did with Randy Moss after having all these nondescript receivers, that's when it clicked in my mind. This guy might be the greatest of all time. And I think what he's gone on to do since then has sealed it, at least in my mind. All right.